As I have mentioned before, if you see an early discount for a game like a month within its launch window, that is usually not a good sign that the game has sold well. We got to figure that these things are sold at a premium anyway, so even cutting the price a bit can still net the company those profits. But that's if they can get those numbers. Maybe the game had a bit of a rocky launch, and many of those issues were then resolved within a month, so at that point more people wanted to jump in. You drop the price a bit, sort of get those numbers, really entice the players to dive in. Better yet, if your game has multiplayer and those microtransactions there, because then the company just needs to get the game in the player's hand, and then more money can be spent on in-game items and stuff like that. But with Dragon Age, that really wasn't the case with this. We had a crap game with a crap launch, and the crap just continued to run down the crappy Dragon Age hill. And here we are left with an unbelievably bad game, and EA and BioWare seem to be left with one whopper of a failure. These past few weeks we have seen Dragon Age on sale here and there, with a small sale on PC and then a bit of a larger one on consoles, with some deception thrown in to just spice things up. Right now we are looking at the game's biggest discount so far. The game is currently on sale at 35% off on Steam, and then I found some interesting posts on Reddit citing that the game is being offered for even more on consoles. So on Xbox there's these personal deals that will pop up just for you. They will be these exclusive discounts for that person. Apparently a lot of people have been receiving one for Dragon Age the Veilguard, with a discount up to 45% off. That's almost 50% off. For a game that released at the very end of October, to see it discounted like this, EA and BioWare are practically giving it away. I know I have called both of these companies desperate in my prior videos, but this definitely reeks of the same desperation. I wouldn't be surprised if this title is quickly put on EA Play, like the full game, sort of treating it like it's dead weight on the buying end of things, but it might help push up the library that EA Play offers, except anyone who wants to play this game probably already did, and it's not like at this point you're finally going to win over the large Dragon Age fanbase that you wanted to actually buy this game. It's not like age is going to help this game either. If anything, time is going to hurt this title. It's like seeing a turd left out in the sun, with more and more heat being applied to it. It doesn't get better. At this point, what does EA and BioWare do? They had the media run interference for them when the game came out. So many outlets were giving this game 10s or 9s, very, very high numbers. Yet a large group of the fanbase and players were just like, this doesn't match what we are seeing with the leaks, trailers, gameplay, and then especially when they were able to get their hands on the game. Then when the media saw how they were completely out of touch in relation to this title, they started to try to backpedal with those articles, sort of lowering their initial scores. They didn't officially backpedal by lowering the scores with a re-review or anything like that, but that is essentially what most of those post-review articles pretty much did. It was like, yeah, we gave the game a 10 or 9, but actually the game really wasn't that good. But at this point, whatever credibility the media had with this game was dead, sort of like the game overall. Then the last few weeks we have experienced EA and BioWare running a campaign to get more and more attention on this game, giving away parts of it like the free character creator, a long 5-hour demo with EA Play, and then all of the discounts. But all of this stuff doesn't seem to be moving the numbers at all. At this point, what do you do? Personally, this is where you would see a company take the direction of, hey, we screwed up. We can make the game better. But the problem with this title is that it goes way down into the root of the game. You can overhaul a lot, patch and improve many aspects. I have seen games get those redemption stories. But for this, how do you release a patch that improves the writing, storytelling, or even characters? You can't. You made it, you're stuck with it, and now you're suffering for it. So there has been some talk about an insider at BioWare providing some clarification that the rumored 3 million sold for the game was not actually true. Apparently that was a projection number. The actual sales are more around the 1.5 million. You might be asking, why isn't EA or BioWare celebrating that number? Usually when a game sells over 1 million, that is usually something to celebrate, and yet we haven't heard anything from the developers talk about that. Even when the developers were asked about the game sales in a recent interview, they couldn't even comment on it. This again goes back to the good old sniff test. Veilguard must have had a really large budget. It's making more and more sense that the rumored budget being around 300 million for the development looking more and more true, especially since that number probably does not factor in the marketing costs at all. I mean, this game had a horrible and troubled development. It was going to be a live service type of game, and then sort of turned into this single player game that we eventually got, because it was trying to be a Dragon Age game at the end of the day. But like, I'm sure they tried to use whatever they could from that live service version into the final version we got. But in doing so, the big change and shift in scope and focus, that's probably a lot of work and man hours that went down the tube because of that switch. I wouldn't be surprised if the budget was actually much higher, considering how bloated a AAA game is within this industry. Now sure, this is an insider, it might not actually be true, but things are starting to line up at least in that direction. And even with all this stuff with the sales, post-game promotion, this title doesn't seem to be getting the traction or any of the good stuff in that direction. I mean, I'm talking about it, but BioWare really doesn't want me talking about this game like this. They want people praising it and especially buying it, but that is not happening. It is not looking good for the once great RPG studio. The whole situation with and surrounding Veilguard continually has me thinking about it. Like, what if we had some power to direct what BioWare should have done, and maybe what they should not have done? So let's say Veilguard came out, maybe even in the same way it did, and the fan base was just not interested in this at all. What do you try to do and restore that bond with the community? For one, do not blame the consumers for the failure of your game and the poor sales. People did not buy it for whatever reason. When you focused on that new audience, the modern audience, you saw that very hard way that those numbers were not there at all. Because you know who buys Dragon Age games? Dragon Age fans, and you did not cater to them at all. You ignored them. You thought you could create a new fan base and live on within this new group. That was a huge error. I think if BioWare could be in this position, maybe had some humility, and admitted what they did, this is what they tried and that it didn't really pan out at all, and maybe even acknowledge what they should have done. Because as of right now, the path that BioWare has gone down, I don't know what to do from here. Probably one of the best things would have been to keep quiet, and honestly, if they didn't go under, very much focus on the next project. And if I was them, that better be focused on a fan-driven provided game, like we should have had here. If anyone on this Dragon Age team learns something, it's to not do this with the next Mass Effect title. Mainly because we don't want to see what was done here done to another franchise, and BioWare really needs to look internally and decide if they want to commit to continually failing, or if they want to try and move in a better direction. I don't know which direction they're going to be going in, but if your project fails the legacy, fails the fan base, and all of that, do not look outward and blame that for your failure. You can only blame yourself. You made all of these decisions, and sadly took the wrong kind of risks. What do you think of all of this? Can BioWare recover from this? What would you do if you had the power to control this situation? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.